Hey, what's up, and welcome to the All-In Networker podcast. This podcast started because myself, Dan McCabe, had a question. The question was, how do you build a big team fast in network marketing? So I asked a good mentor of mine, Dr. David Pietsch, who is a Hall of Famer, 250,000 customers in his downline, tens of thousands of representatives, and he just started spilling the beans. Started telling me everything, not just what worked in the past, but what he is doing in the future to really grow and build his business. I said, hey doc, this needs to be a thing. And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, we're gonna turn this into a podcast. So here it is, the secret straight from his mouth into your ears. Whatever we can do to help you and the industry grow is what we're here for. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's get started. Hey, what's up, and welcome back to the All-In Networker podcast. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed and reviewed so far because, frankly, it's just really taken off a lot faster than I ever thought it would, and that's incredible. So could you have imagined this growth, Doctor?
You know, Dan, I amaze myself all the time with the things that happen to me, so just par for the course in my life. Good things happen to good people, huh, Dan?
That's right. Well, you know, I just want to applaud myself and pat myself on the back for having the foresight to align myself with you. And, you know,
what a great decision that was, Dan. You're probably one of the smarter guys I know on this planet.
Right. Absolutely. So, well, this is going to be a fun conversation. This was a conversation that we had on one of the daily calls with your team a few days ago, and we both really liked it. And I mean, immediately we're going through it. I'm like, why aren't we recording this? Why isn't this being recorded? This needs to be an episode as well. And we were talking about mindset, and the conversation, I'm sure you recall it. We were originally talking about the mindset of going into a presentation. What is it like when, how do you get yourself up? Because there's a few things that we know to be true really in all facets of life, but especially in network marketing, something that's harder for people that are newer in the industry. But when you go into a presentation, if you go in and you go in with this belief and this idea that I am going to close this person, I'm going to close everybody in that room, like there is no way they're going to say no. Chances are your closing ratio is going to go through the roof. Whereas if you go in and you're crossing your fingers and you're like, I hope this works, I hope this works, I hope this works. Like you're probably not going to, you might get a few because you're lucky. And if you go in with a negative mindset of like, oh man, I got to go do another presentation, your closing ratio will be 0%. So we were talking about that. Do you remember the conversation?
I do.
Good. Well, I mean, you talked about some of the tricks that you did. So Tony Robbins calls it getting into state, getting yourself into the mental space that you need to be in order to go give your best at all times. So you did 1,000 presentations in a row because you are a complete animal, but you set yourself up for a lifetime. So good for you. Makes a lot of sense. Getting up for that many presentations had to have been difficult. So what did you typically do before you got up and presented your product, your opportunity?
Well, you know, I just looked at it like it was an athletic event. You know, I played sports in high school. I played football in college. And I just had the mentality that it's game time. You know, so a typical day in my life for the 1,000 days, Dan, was go see patients, take care of them until 6:15 at night, drive home as fast as I possibly can, take a shower, change my clothes, drink a protein shake, walk back into my chiropractic office at 7 o'clock every night, and it's packed. I mean, I'm walking in, people are greeting me, shaking my hand. I'm just trying to make my way up to the computer to make sure everything's running right. I can barely even get there. But it's like in between the drive home from the chiropractic office and then back up to the chiropractic office night after night, it was I'm listening to music, I'm getting myself psyched up. And, you know, it's just like, I'm going to walk into this arena and I've just got to win. I've just got to be on. There just cannot be, you know, me moping around. These people that brought out their contacts, you know, they're expecting me. I mean, you know what they say, you know, bring the heat, Dr. Pietsch, bring the heat. Well, let me just tell you, Dan, the heat was brought in every night. You know, I would just walk in there like, you are going to get my absolute best. And people would say to me over and over and over again, there was many nights, Dan, where there's only one guest or two, and
sure,
maybe you'd look at these people and they're probably not the sharpest looking people, but I can assure you that I gave my absolute best presentation every single night, regardless of how many people were there, because I just didn't prejudge. And what that would actually do to the people who were reps that were bringing people out that weren't that sharp, or there's only one or two of them, it just let them know that when you bring people out here, I am going to be on my A game every single night. And if you do that night after night after night, day after day, week after week, year after year, things will happen for you on your team.
Absolutely. And, you bring up a good point there, and then I'm going to circle back to how you got yourself into state on a regular basis, night after night after night. But you brought up a good point. Sometimes there were one or two guests, and that would happen, especially in the beginning when you're starting out. And I remember when we were more actively building and going out there and growing a team, there would be those early nights, because I remember hearing your story and I'm like, I'm going to go do a presentation every single night. I can do that. In those early nights, like we'd get a wave of people at the beginning because I could get people excited up front. But, a lot of people don't have the every night mentality. So a week in, 2 weeks in, it would start tapering down. And then there'd be nights where no guest would show up. Maybe there'd be 2 reps that would show up, and we did the presentation anyways. And we would continue to do it because you needed to show the representatives that you were all in. Every single time you need to show up that you were all in. It was a good chance to practice. It was a good chance to work on things. Sometimes we might throw somebody else up there, give them an opportunity to go speak in front of an empty room. But there's something different about being on that stage with that clicker. And ultimately, true duplication comes from training other people to become leaders. So going back to with how you got yourself into state, it sounds like music was a big part of it. You got yourself kind of just juiced up. You got your blood flowing. I was kind of the exact opposite, just to let people know that there's different perspectives on this entire thing, is that before big presentations, I would go and find the quietest spot that I possibly could. I'd find the quietest spot that I possibly could. I would close my eyes. I would try to find, a certain stillness, and I would envision what that presentation is going to look like. What's it going to be like walking down the aisle after you get announced? What's it going to be like when you're on stage? What are the reactions of the crowd's faces? And so they both work. People just need to find what works for them, but you need to find something. You got to find something that works, and you need to do it over and over again and make sure that you're doing it before the presentations, because if your mind's not right, you don't stand a chance.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, for me, it was all day long, I'm thinking about doing that presentation at night. I mean, I just take it back to, say I'm in high school and you got a night game on a Friday. It's just like that Friday anticipation. You got a big game you got to be up for. I live my life like that every single day. And it was the most important thing. Like seeing patients in my chiropractic office, I just went through the motions there, basically. I wanted to build a residual income. I wanted a better life for myself. So that was the plan A I had in my mind. And so, everything was geared toward, I got to make sure I have enough strength, for the evening. I'll tell you a good example. My upline, who was the #1 income earner in the company at that time, flew up from Dallas to Minneapolis and brought some of his new top guys. And they came, they flew up in the afternoon. They came to my office. They were there, basically in the first couple of rows, watching me do what I do. And then after I did the presentation, after I did the training for about an hour, they're like, hey, Dr. Pietsch, can we take you out to dinner and just pick your brain a little bit? And I'm just like, nope. Because I go to bed at the same time every single night. Because if I get tired, I never can get it back. Because I have to be up at this time to see patients.
Right.
I just cannot let myself get tired. I cannot let myself get sick. And so that taught them more than anything else was the discipline that I had, and just the anticipation of, if I do this and go hang out with these people, and that would have been fun to do, then tomorrow I'm not going to give my best. And it's just that type of mentality where I am always going to show up day after day, and I'm going to deliver the goods for you, man. That is what I promise you. If you have that, things will happen for you.
Right. That is such a huge point. We didn't talk about that the other day on the huddle call. We talk about discipline all the time. That's what, the all-in networker, that's the whole philosophy behind everything. But yeah, that story that you told about not going out to eat with the top earners in the company, that kind of reminded me. I know I told this story the other day on our regular daily call as well with your team. But I remember when I first got involved and I was working and I was building, and one of the top earners, the top guy on your entire team, he showed up, and like it was a big deal. Like everybody's like, wow, he's coming to town, he's coming to town, he's coming down. Everybody's getting excited. And I put together this event, and I think we had like 35 or 40 of my contacts show up. Like we're just kicking off. It was the launch. I'd never really done the presentation before. I'd stumbled through it a couple times at that point. And I remember he got there and he was talking to me about the setup and like creating the plan of what he was going to do. And I was like, you're not speaking. And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, if I don't do this, like, I want you to like, tell me what I do wrong. And I want to I need to learn, I need to get up there and I need to do it. But that was kind of the mentality that I had at the time. If those top earners want to show up, it's not a chance for me to sit back and watch them do the presentation. It's a chance for me to go do the presentation and have them tell me how I screwed it up or what I could do to get better. And I think that's a different mindset than a lot of people have. A lot of people look at the top earners in their company almost as like superheroes or celebrities. And I know you know that because you are one of them within your company. So they tiptoe around, that person. They think like, oh, I kind of want to be like that person. So in order to be like that person, I need to watch that person. And you can learn a lot by watching, but I have to imagine that, at some point, I'm sure it probably happened to you as well with the number of people that are on your team, but there's probably almost something more satisfying from your standpoint, having somebody on your team that wants to be in front of the room and have you help them after the fact, or help them share with them what they can do better. I mean, jump up for a testimonial at the end, clean up whatever messes they made.
Yeah, exactly. And that's good stuff. And Dan, one of the things I did in addition to all that stuff is I would hardly ever do the whole presentation myself. I would make somebody else do the front half or the back half. And, everybody knew this about me, that, and I understand that this was a long time ago, and we're not saying the only way to build network marketing is by live events. We totally get that. There's a million different ways, but just get the principles. If you showed up late to my office and you were already in, I would just stop and just go, hey, Dan, thanks for showing up on time. Why don't you come on up here? I mean, you got to understand, like for me, night after night, my office is packed.
Yeah.
The majority of my 1,000 days, it is standing room only. It is packed to the gills. I mean, this was in Minneapolis, no joking. I mean, people literally standing outside looking in the windows. We had it going on like Donkey Kong the first couple of years of my business. And I would just stop in front of everybody and just say, why don't you come on up here, grab the clicker and just take it from here. And like, they'd be like, no, I'm too embarrassed. Like, I'm just telling you, I would not talk. I would not budge. They just felt pressure to walk up there. And so number one, that forced people to show up on time. And number two, it forced people to realize, I better know this material or else I'm going to look like a fool when I get up there and do it. And so, there's just a lot of things that are going on. But I mean, just going back to the preparation and the mental state that, you've got to be in, it's just got to be a priority. You got to want to win every single day. You got to do your best every single day. I mean, Dan, I can just tell you, like, I couldn't have done any better than I did for the 1,000-day run that I made. Like I literally laid it on the line every day of my life for 1,000 days. I know it. Everybody knows it. Everybody that knows me goes, Dr. Pietsch, you earned it. And that's just what it takes, guys. I wish you didn't have to do that, but that's what it is.
Right. And we were talking about this beforehand, and we jumped into the call the other day as well. And you listen to the music. You did what you need to do yourself to get yourself into that mindset before every single presentation. And I'm sure that not every single day at your chiropractic office was the best day of your life. Sometimes you were worn out, you were tired, you had a crappy patient, somebody complaining about their bill, whatever you had to deal with that day. And they were trying to bring you down. I met this guy once named Ryan Stewman. He has a podcast for salespeople as well, but he calls it the force of average. Every so often, people are trying to bring you down. They're constantly trying to bring you down. You got to pick yourself back up. And so you would figure out a way to get yourself back into that mental capacity. You'd figure out a way to flip and turn that tide. For you is music. Now, we also talked about the other day how it's not just about you. If you really want to have success, whether it's at events or on trainings, even if you're doing them online, it's what can you do to get your audience, to get your prospects into the proper mindset as well, because we don't know what kind of day they had. They might have had a rough day. They might have had somebody complaining. They might have argued with their spouse. You never know. So I know with you were telling me, and you can dive in a little deeper, but you would have that music blaring every single time people walked into your office, right? Who were you playing? What kind of music was it? Like, what was the intent behind that? Like, how did you start the presentation?
You would walk into my chiropractic office, and it was high energy music. And I'll just be honest, kind of embarrassing, but we just played 3 Rihanna CDs. We would not budge. We would not change. We just knew what we were getting. And it was energetic music. And so it was this, high vibration, music is too loud. People tell me all the time, turn that music down. I can't hear what you're saying. No. But I'll tell you another thing that I did is I would play a video to start. I played like a 3-minute video, and it had good music going, had a lot of visuals. That bought me a few extra minutes for the stragglers that were late, but much more just about getting people to feel excited. I mean, I'd watch that video. The minute I hear the start of that video, even to this day, Dan, 13 years later, I get the goosebumps, because it just made me feel a certain kind of way, and so just getting people, and like, things that we were doing is just visuals. They were seeing what was going on even before the presentation started, music, energy. That has got to happen. If you're doing it online, in my opinion, find a way to make that happen. You know, whether you're building online or you're doing home parties or you're doing, you know, big presentations, whatever you're doing, find a way to make that happen.
Right. So when you were doing that, people are showing up to your office. A lot of people are showing up early. I remember you telling me once people would show up as much as an hour early on a regular basis. You'd have the music going. You'd have a fun atmosphere. You're trying to get people away from whatever mental condition they had before they showed up at your office. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but we'll go with it. And you're trying to get them into, you know, a fun mindset. You're trying to get them into a more of a positive place, because then they're going to be more apt to really listen and want to become a part of what it is that you have going on. You can do the same thing online. And when you're doing similar things online, it means if you're hosting a webinar, you know, log in 10 minutes earlier, you know, put together a really good sizzle reel about your company and your product, get some high energy music behind it, you know, like figure out what it is that you can show that get people into the proper mindset before. And I remember when we first started doing Zoom meetings, I would pop on 5-10 minutes before and there'd be some music there, but then it was just a rolling kind of a set of slides that were just really positive quotes about life and personal development, things like that. And that's what we were using at that time. You can either dive right into your product, depending on what you're doing. We did that because it was more of an opportunity presentation. We wanted to like hold a little back until later, but we just used quotes and it worked out. I've seen people set up, you know, TVs behind where they're going to be. And it's just kind of like this anticipation and these countdown timers. There's a lot of different things you can do, but you spend so much time learning how to do the presentation. You spend so much time inviting people and telling people to invite people. You spend so much time getting butts in those chairs that take the little bit of extra time to make sure that you're pre-framing them correctly, that you're properly introducing them to your atmosphere, your environment, to what it is you're doing. I mean, if it's a 10-minute video, you know, maybe it takes you 2 hours to go and pull together pictures and some music to create a 10-minute video, but then you have that for the next 1,000 presentations you do. Take the couple hours and do it right now. It'll pay dividends for a long, long time.
Yeah, Dan, I mean, I say it all the time. I mean, the sale is made before you even start opening your mouth in the presentation. You know, I promise you for my 1,000-day run, I had them before I even started talking. You know, I mean, just one other thing is kind of not related, but it's just how it went down, is when they would bring their guests out, I would have them walk up to the front of the room. I'd be sitting on a stool and they would introduce their prospect to me. You know, so I'd get a chance to meet that individual. Then I'd say, oh, you might want to go talk to Dan over there. You know, you guys have a lot in common. I try to connect people, you know, just make them feel welcome. It's this very welcoming, positive energy place. And you can do it online, guys. It's not, you just get creative, figure out how to do these things. But it's just in the mindset of the person that's there, they're going, wow, these people are super nice to me. This is a really fun atmosphere. I love what's going on here. Just make that happen in your business and it's lights out.
Yeah, and you were doing it live. And one thing that I think people screw up online a little bit is when you're doing it live, like, you know, I know a lot of leaders would teach, like, you pick the person up, you bring them to the presentation, you know, you sit there next to them, you laugh at the jokes, you do the stuff because they're going to do what you're going to do. And people forget that online, like all the time. You know, a lot of companies do regular Zooms, sometimes every hour, if not every day, at least once a week, they do these Zooms. And representatives will send out a mass text to like 15 people and say, jump on this Zoom. And then they just cross their fingers and hope. I hope this works. But they don't do any follow-up. They don't do anything else. Like if you're going to invite somebody to a Zoom, treat it like you're inviting them to a live presentation. You know, 10 minutes before that presentation starts, you know, text them, make sure that they're getting on because the seats could fill up. You know, when that presentation starts, make sure that you text them, make sure that their connection's okay, make sure they're not having any troubles hearing the speaker or anything like that. Make sure you're communicating with them. When they know that you're paying attention, then they'll pay attention. If you just send out a mass text for, hey, there's a webinar at 9 o'clock tonight, and then you go to the movies, they're not going to show up. They're going to pay as much attention as you pay.
FaceTime them, call them. I mean, be right on the phone with them right while they're logging on, you know? Yeah. I mean, again, just get creative, but as personal of a touch as you can possibly have, because at the end of the day, they just want to know that you care about them, that you're going to help them, that you're really going to be there with them. But again, just make it fun. Don't make it like a job. Don't make it like a business for yourself. You know, if you're the one doing the presenting, just be lighthearted, have fun. Don't make it too long.
Right. Yep, absolutely. So yeah, lots of good points there. And I hope people got something out of this. The presentation, there's so many things. I mean, first and foremost, what we're trying to get through today is that you need to have your mind right. You need to go up there with the attitude that everybody's going to be a sale. Everybody's going to close. You believe in what you have so much, you are doing them a disservice if you do not offer it to them and sell it to them. If they do not buy it, it's because somewhere along the line you did not properly guide them and give them the right information, and you made their lives a little bit worse because they need your thing. Like, you need that belief system as you're going into it. Now, at the same time, while you're getting your mind right, spend a little bit of time, just a little bit, I beg you, because this is one of the biggest mistakes I see with events, is spend a little time pre-framing it and creating an atmosphere and environment that's going to get them excited. So, you know, I mean, it's all good stuff, Doc. I love this topic. It really brings me back because I used to do so many presentations, so many live presentations. I've done probably thousands in my life as well, just like you have. And I mean, I just love them. There's such a great opportunity. Now we do things on Zoom. As of the recording of this, we are still hunkered down during a pandemic. So it is what it is, but I love the topic. So if you got anything you want to close us out with here? Otherwise, let's go ahead and wrap this one up.
I mean, listen, if you're still getting nervous before you do this stuff, you know, I'm just here to tell you that never goes away. You know, I mean, I speak in stadiums full of people, and I go into the bathroom before I go on stage, and there's other people that are getting ready to go up on stage and they're literally throwing up or they got diarrhea, just keeping it real. I mean, people get nervous when they talk in front of people. And if that's you, you just do it anyway, because after a while it becomes so second nature. But I just promise you that it's like a light switch. For those of us that really do it, you know, I can think of the top guy on my team in real life, you know, he's pretty quiet, you know, just not loud and boisterous. But the minute that he goes up to do the presentation, or the minute he goes on stage, the switch is just flipped and it's just on. Right. And I'm just telling you, you can teach yourself how to do that. And once you know how to do that skill, they can never take it away from you, and it will pay you for a lifetime. So learn how to do this, guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just, you know, real quick, follow that up. It's some of the best presenters I know. This goes against what most people believe. Some of the best presenters I know, the best speakers, are some of the biggest introverts in real life. So if you think you're an introvert and you can't do this, just get out of your shell just a little bit, because you become some of the best. You become another person on there. So, all right, appreciate you guys as always. And yeah, if you got something out of this that you like, if you got team members, you want them to understand all of these different concepts and they can gather something from this. If you're the one doing the presentations, you should have your team members listen to this so they know how to show up for your presentations with their guests. If you got team members who are thinking about starting to do their own presentations, which they should be, they should listen to this so they know how to set up their events. So share this with them, share this with your teams, and we would love to get any of you to go out there and review our podcast, our episode, whenever you get a chance. We greatly appreciate it. It's the greatest compliment we can get. So with that being said, until next time, we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Hey, thanks for listening to the All In Networker podcast. Dr. David Pietsch and I greatly appreciate it. If you receive some value, or you know somebody that will receive some value, please share this episode with them. We want to pick up the entire industry, help serve the entire industry of network marketing. We believe that when other network marketers win, we all win. So on top of that, if you'd like to check out some of our free trainings, you can go to allinnetworker.com. Otherwise, please just rate, subscribe to this episode, this podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd greatly appreciate it. And until next time, thanks a lot.